I'm making this pot, and I'm going to make it this way up. Undercut it with a wiggle wire, pick it up and drape it over a slump mold. That's that. And then afterwards I'll cut it. So I'm going to start with about 1.5 pounds of clay. More than I need for that size, but I always like to have a little more to play with. Basically, I'm centering, and then I'm going to throw a fat pancake. And I'm not, because I know that I'm going to cut this thing to be not round, I don't even need to be too concerned with the outside edges. If you want to leave it round, you need to be more concerned with the outside edges. So there's my flat pancake. It's still thicker than I want it to be, which is good, because now I'm going to push down to the thickness I eventually want, draw across. This is upside down, right? So I'm throwing the foot. 2 years ago at NCECA, the National Conference of Educators of Ceramic Arts, I was doing a demo for my friends at Amico Brent, and someone on their staff gave me a wiggle wire to try, and I fell in love with it. I just am totally enamored with wiggle wires. We went traveling after NCECA, and I didn't get home for almost 3 weeks after the conference. And every night as I went to sleep at night, I was making pots in my mind, ways to use these wiggle wires. By the time I got home, I had a lot of pent-up energy to use them. I made this up. Almost everything that I make in my pottery studio, I can tell you exactly from whom I learned it or how I picked it up. And this one I actually invented, although I'm sure other people do it too. I invented this while traveling. There we go. That's all you do right now. Make sure that you have a clean line. Now this foot looks ridiculously small for a pot this wide, but because I'm going to cut it into a rectangle, it needs to be a lot smaller than if I were going to leave it whole. And because I'm going to cut it into a rectangle, I'm not worried about these outside edges. I'm not going to mess with them. When I know I might leave it round, I take a lot more time to finish them off. Then you put this aside, and with the plaster bat, it doesn't take very long at all, especially if the bat is pretty dry. So just to talk for a minute, if you don't have access to a plaster bat and you want to use a regular bat, what I found was that when I went to drape these, if they went over too sharp of a curve, they would crack right here at the foot. So in order to have it be dry enough underneath to be able to undercut with the wire and have the top still not be dry, the way around that is to take a little piece of dry cleaner's plastic and just drape the foot. Or maybe you won't have that problem. Maybe your clay is not as fussy as mine. So we're back with my recently thrown plate, upside down plate, on this plaster bat. And I'm going to try and show you how to make this pattern. I sometimes put this on the table rather than on a wheel. Let's see if I can hold this wheel still. I use more than one wheel in my studio, and the one I usually use for this doesn't pre-wheel. The Brent pre-wheels, which is nice for many projects, but not so great when you're trying to get it to hold still. So when I'm thinking about it, and not on camera, I pick the bat up and put it on a table. Here we go. So now I've got my plate with perhaps a slightly messy pattern underneath. You can see the pattern underneath. And I have a drape mold that is basically just a bisqued bowl that I trimmed to be a dome, and that I use to drape clay over it. This will sit here until it gets to be leather hard, and then I will pick it up and cut it off of circular. And here's my wiggle wire plate, and it's gotten to be leather hard. It actually happens pretty quickly. When you throw in a plaster bat, it gets ready to be undercut quite quickly, especially if your plaster bats haven't been used much recently. The more you use them, obviously, the slower they are to suck water out. And then this being a bisqued form, took more moisture out of it. So it hasn't been very long, and it's ready for the next thing. So here we are. This is absolutely dealer's choice, you know, how you choose to do this. I usually try and get rid of the mucky bits, the places that I'm not pleased with the way it came out. And as a potter, I'm always fighting being too tidy. So I try to just go ahead and cut without spending too much time measuring and thising and thating, because I'm always cleaning things up. And I really like pots that have a looser and less tidy look. Having said that, I'll still take that and mark where I'm headed. But I try to make these. I'm not purposely trying for messy, but I am trying for unstudied. And sometimes then, because I am who I am, I have to come back and clean them up because I can't stand what I did. One thing I will say is that I do consciously try to not have the markings go either completely vertical or horizontal. I try to have them be on a diagonal across the shape. So that's unstudied. It's too unstudied for me. So I need to make this end. I need to make the ends a little bit closer in size, or it'll drive me crazy. And there you have it, the perpetual fight of between one's first instinct and what one is attracted to. I think every potter I know has a deep envy of people who can work either more tightly or more loosely than they can. Now I'm just taking a throwing sponge and cleaning up those edges, softening the edges a little bit, and that's it.